The world is still moving from the 20th to the 21st century. Many of our business practices remain tailored to generations of older men and women such as baby boomers who are now rapidly leaving the workforce. They are being supplanted by new, young and ambitious individuals belonging to generations dubbed Generation X and Generation Y, with lifestyles, priorities, interests and views radically different from those of their baby boomer parents. It will take a significant change on the part of companies, especially large, people-driven multinational corporations such as Danfoss, to harness the full potential of today's and tomorrow's young adults and youth. In this video, we're going to briefly present who Generation X and Generation Y are, what is important to them in terms of job satisfaction, and provide tips to Danfoss on how to best leverage its current position to attract the best and the brightest from Generations X and Y. Let's start with Generation X. So-called Gen Xers are individuals born after the Western post-World War II baby boom. Most demographers and commentators use birth dates ranging from the early 60s to the early 80s. Gen Xers are often called the MTV generation. They experienced the emergence of many new forms of music and entertainment over the past decades. Compared with previous generations, Generation X represents a more heterogeneous generation, embracing social diversity in almost every aspect of life. Unlike their parents who challenged their leaders with an intent to replace them, Gen Xers are less likely to idolize leaders and are more inclined towards long-term institutional systemic change through economic, media, and consumer actions. The US Census Bureau reports that Generation X holds the highest education levels when looking at current age groups. Small businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that Gen Xers embody have become one of the most popular institutions in the world. There's been a recent shift in consumer behavior, and Gen Xers will join the idealist generation in encouraging the celebration of individual effort and business risk-taking. As a result, Xers are expected to spark a renaissance of entrepreneurship in economic life, even as overall confidence in economic institutions declines. Speaking of the so-called idealist generation, let's take a look at Generation Y. With no precise dates on when Generation Y began, the general consensus is that its members were born sometime between the 80s and the early 2000s. Generation Y are confident, well-educated, self-sufficient, and socially and politically aware, but they can be unrealistic in their desire to make a difference and climb the corporate ladder. In stark contrast to prior generations, Gen Yers put less emphasis on authority or even compensation in determining job satisfaction. The things that matter to them relate to maintaining a good work-life balance. They also put significant emphasis on finding a workplace that offers them a chance at growth and diversity at work. In surveys, members of Generation Y stated that the opportunity to travel is very important to them, though their focus on family may make working abroad a challenge. So how can Danfoss leverage its position to best suit the workforce needs of the younger generations and attract and keep their top talent? Well, here's a few tips for working with Gen Yers and Gen Xers. Nudge them away from their comfort zones. Explain what needs to be done and entrust them with the responsibility to do it. Gen X, and especially Gen Y, perform better when their work has less of an emphasis on structure, authority, and order, and when they are given freedom to pursue their goals with a degree of autonomy. Danfoss can best achieve this by further emphasizing its horizontal leadership structure and dynamic utilization of their workforce based on the orders it receives. A Japanese-style rotation of all employees to different areas of the company also serves to nudge the employee out of their comfort zone and add a variety to their work while ensuring a more omnicompetent workforce. Assist them with social cues. Guide them in etiquette and protocol, especially when engaging older generations. Danfoss cannot transition its workforce overnight. Effective HR and team building are key in ensuring efficiency in a heterogeneous workforce that spans across the generation.
Created using Powtoon.